Now loading podcast, period.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Podcast Period, the internet's stupidest podcast. My name is Ben, and with me today, as always, is my co-host.
What's up, guys?
So today we've got some articles and stuff that we're going to read out for you. We've actually got some pretty interesting things that David and I are going to talk about. Plus more WandaVision. Plus some really interesting trailers that we're going to watch. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty interesting show. First things first, let's dive into the news for this episode. First up, so you remember that live action series that Netflix was doing for Avatar, The Last Airbender, right?
Yeah.
And how the creators left that after a little bit because of creative differences.
Which I wasn't happy to hear because I was really looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, good news is apparently they scuttled right back to Nickelodeon, and Nickelodeon has opened Avatar Studios, which is apparently dedicated to the expansion of the Avatar mythos. And they've already announced that they're doing an animated theatrical film. So we're just going to have to wait and see what that is. I don't know. They obviously haven't said whether that's going to be focusing on the original Avatar gang, whether it's going to be focusing on Korra, whether it's going to be an original film. I'm personally hoping that it's an original thing because I feel like Aang and Korra's stories were pretty complete where they left them off. I would like to see the comics that they've been coming out with. I would like to see those in animated form, I think. But beyond that, I'm kind of hoping it's an animated original film.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Original animated film.
I like the comics a lot, and that's kind of my answer. Because if I didn't have the comics, I'd be leaning more towards continuation of the original gang, Aang and Katara and them. But, you do have the comics for that, and I do like where most of that has gone. I don't know. It's one of those things where I feel like if they delved into it too much, they just end up ruining it for me. And it ended on such a perfect note that I'm okay if it's like a new Avatar. We don't have a whole lot with an earthbending Avatar yet. We had Kyoshi, but it wasn't delved into a whole lot, so I just move on with the cycle and go with the next Avatar after Korra.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see whether it's going to be like another Avatar coming up story, or if this is going to be a fully fledged Avatar already when the movie starts. I think that it would be smarter of them to just start with a fully fledged Avatar instead of trying to smush all of the ascension steps or whatever you want to call it into like half an hour, and then have the rest of the film, like the other hour, be the main conflict or whatever. You know?
I'm with you on that too. We got to see Aang grow up.
Mm-hmm.
We launched. We
still got a little bit of it with Korra too. She was still she was a master of everything else, but she still had to learn airbending, and it took her almost the entire season to do it, the entire first season.
So I think the next step would be to just launch with a fully fledged Avatar and just see what happens. I'm with you on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so needless to say, I'm pretty excited about what they're going to do. I'm also still pretty excited about the Netflix adaptation. We'll see whether it goes the way of the live action film did.
I hope not.
I'm hoping not. If you want to hear David and I's thoughts about that, we recorded an entire episode about the original series and about the movie a while ago. So go check that out. Anyways, let's move on to our next topic, shall we?
Alrighty. So, in great news for what has seemed to be a never-ending issue with the global pandemic that is COVID-19. There's been a unanimous vote by the FDA to authorize Johnson's and Johnson's third vaccine. Now, this one's going to work a little bit differently with the Moderna vaccine and Pfizer's vaccine. It's a 2-dose step, so you have to have 2 doses of this, and they're having issues with supply and constraint demands. And they're kind of going back and forth on the guidance that the CDC wants to give. Do we just hold off the second dose for now and get as many people vaccinated at least once, or do we stick with the original guidance and get that second dose as quickly as we can? There's a lot of differences on that, and it's just because of how much demand there is and the fact that it's just not going as fast as they want it to. Obviously, deaths are piling up. We just crossed the 500,000 mark in the US, so it needs to happen so that this can be done and that a normal life can pursue after this, because it's too much. There's a lot of people that can't take this much more.
Yeah.
So it's a good third vaccine that is supposed to be a 1-dose only stop and shop, if you want to call it that. There's a small issue with the efficacy of the vaccine. There's been different numbers that have been given out, but it's looking like it's narrowing around the 60% efficient mark. So at preventing moderate to severe symptoms after the 28-day mark. So it's not as high as Moderna and the Pfizer's vaccines, but it's only 1. So if we can use this to get a very quick jab at the 20s to 50s range of age group, the people that seem to be spreading it the most but aren't as likely to be severely affected as the older age groups, I feel like that would be a great third vaccine to nail punch it at where it seems to have the highest transmission rates, but where it doesn't seem to be as causing as much issue.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to say about the 2 doses. I feel like as far as the 2 doses go, most people are probably going to be okay with the 1 for a little while, especially that 20 to 50 range that you were talking about. The people that really need to get that second dose is the people that are most at risk, those elderly people, the people with pre-existing conditions, all that jazz that we've all heard before. So, but this is a good thing. This is definitely a good step forward. So hopefully we'll be seeing more single shot vaccines or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, and just more in general would be, a great thing. We got to nip this in the bud. So,
all right. So something that David and I have been applauding before the show. We talked about it a little bit, but we're obviously going to reiterate our thoughts here. Google Smart TV software will be shipping, at least here soon, with a dumb TV mode, or a basic TV mode, as they like to call it. So, basically, what that entails is that you can use, you can obviously hook up an antenna to it to use it for live TV, or a cable box or what have you. Or you can hook up external devices via HDMI or whatever other ports happen to be on that TV. But that's it. There's not going to be any streaming apps, any personalized recommendations, no Google Assistant or anything like that. So if you're already a fan, if you've got a Roku or an Amazon Fire Stick or something like that, and you're already a fan of that, but you had to you had to go out and pick up a TV because yours was broken or it's just getting on in age or whatever. This is a good option for you.
Yeah.
I'm personally, well, I'll reiterate what I said before we got on. I told you about the issues that I have a smart TV. I've been having issues with one app in particular, the Hulu app. Anytime I try to watch something, it doesn't matter what it is. But anytime I try to go, watch an episode of something or a movie, it just crashes. When it first started, it just crashed out to whatever input I had it set on, which I think was like the live TV or maybe my Blu-ray player or something. But here lately, it's just been crashing the TV. So it freezes, and then nothing happens for a while, and then I see the LG logo pop up onto my screen. Like, oh, well, that's nice. And then it usually works fine after that. But it's not necessarily something that is fun to deal with. Not necessarily something that I like dealing with. So I'm faced with the definite possibility of probably soon having to replace or having to buy a Roku and just set that up. It's gonna make everything easier anyway, but still,
Yeah. I agree. This this specific article probably wouldn't have meant anything to me a month ago. Be like, well, I have a dumb TV and I'm okay with it. So why would you get a smart TV if you want it to be a dumb TV? But then I realized in my quick, motivated purchasing decision to buy a larger 4K, because I had a 1080p 32-inch screen, which I thought was fine. But after having the upgrade, I'm totally convinced that I was wrong and that 4K is the way to go. They don't really make dumb TVs anymore. Like it's just gotten so cheap to embed these, smart home system processed.
Even going to like Walmart, the cheapest TV, it's still a crappy 720p TV, but it's $99 and you get a Roku built in. It's insane.
So, I mean, they're there and they kind of just, it's a feature people want, so they don't really bother making them without those features anymore. And I was like, okay, well, I already have the Fire Stick. Maybe I'll switch, but maybe I won't, because I did get the 4K Fire Stick even though I had a 1080p TV. So I was like, well, I'm future-proofed anyway, so we'll just see how it works. And I'm like, oh my god, this is awful. Like, what is this going to be like in 2-3 years when these apps are like double the size, wanting twice the processing power?
Do you know what operating system it's using?
It's Samsung's Crystal 4K powered by Tizen.
Okay.
So it's some weird
Samsung's
like
whatever OS.
Yeah, proprietary nonsense. And to be fair, it works fine now, but it's already caused me anguish in where I would want a dumb TV mode for this, because like it's supposed to auto detect what devices are connected to it, but I don't have enough HDMI inputs, so I already have it going through a splitter. So it doesn't detect correctly anything that the splitter is feeding it, but I did get the 4K Fire Stick directly into one of the HDMI ports. So it recognizes it's the Fire Stick, which then automatically programs the remote to work for the TV. Well, sometimes the Fire Stick will do things that the TV doesn't quite understand, and it'll like try to switch inputs and stuff. Like I'll use the voice search function on one of the apps, it'd be at Hulu or YouTube or something, and it'll get like confused or something, and because I mentioned those, it'll think I want it from the PC, or maybe the two aren't communicating correctly or something, and it'll try to switch inputs to the PC that it recognizes from the splitter thing. And I'm like, no, that's not what I wanted. Why are you doing this? I don't want it doing stuff like that. Just stay on the dang input I had selected. You don't need to switch. That's not what I told you to do. So I'm like, how do I stop this? So I went in there, and there's a way to auto disable the automatic launch of the smart hub, but it doesn't just turn it off. It means you have to like hit the button on the remote to have it work. That's not the same thing as dumb mode. And I really wish I had a dumb mode in cases like that. It's gotten better. I've finally realized I think that's what it was. I haven't had it happen to me in a couple of weeks, so I'm happy about that. But the other thing that I mentioned to Ben was, and this was the most annoying feature, and he and I are totally agreement on this, the automatic brightness adjustment that I had. Didn't know it was enabled. As soon as I got the TV, nice and bright, it was beautiful. The Amazon homepage is beautiful and bright and lovely. Like 15 seconds later, it's like half the brightness. And I had the light on in here. It's not dark in any sort of way. You can see how bright it is in here. I have one light on, and that's everything. I don't have any additional lighting. You can see it's pretty bright. It halved it. You couldn't see what was on the screen at times. It was so dim, and I'm like, what is wrong with this? I go to the brightness settings, turn it all the way up, didn't change anything. I was like, what is this? There's an automatic freaking ambient light sensor on the damn thing somewheres. I'm like, no, I don't want this. I just wanted a 4K TV. I didn't want smart crap.
I don't know what sane person likes automatic brightness. Like, honestly, it is hot garbage. I don't use it on my phone. I would hate it on my TV. No.
I used to hate it on the phone. And I think it's very dependent on the model, where that sensor is at, and how sensitive it is. Because I've had phones where I couldn't stand it before. This one is fine, and I've used it ever since I got the phone. Because when it needs to be brighter, it is. And when it doesn't need to be, it automatically cuts it back, and I don't have to keep adjusting it. This one works really well. TV didn't work at all. I mean, full brightness. I want it, and it wouldn't do it. It just said, nope, you can't have it. Well, at least the phone will let you slide it all the way up and just bypass it. This doesn't. It was like, ugh. So I'm with you. I think it just depends. But I still don't like it.
Yeah. So anyways, we're both in favor of a dumb TV mode. Definitely.
Yeah, I didn't think I would ever want this, but now that I see that they just don't make dumb TVs anymore, and the complications that I've had, and I'm a fairly tech-savvy person, and I still had troubles with it, I can't imagine what, like, a 60-year-old, sorry for the expression, boomer is going to think about this, who has no idea what to look for. So I'm with you. I like the idea.
Oh, man. All right, let's move on to our next story here, shall we?
Alrighty, so gotta love this. TikTok agrees to pay a proposed $92 million settlement in a privacy class action lawsuit. So the parent company of TikTok, ByteDance, agreed to a $92 million deal to settle class action lawsuits alleging that the company illegally collected and used underage TikTok users' personal data. I can't say that I'm surprised that this happened, and this is probably one of the biggest reasons why I just don't like TikTok, because we've had these discussions before where there's been allegations of, Chinese involvement, Chinese government involvement with this, and that this would probably be a really easy backdoor for the communist government to exploit. And, the fact that they went after underage users' data isn't a good thing, considering the stuff that sometimes goes on TikTok, or what it sometimes forwards to OnlyFans. So we don't need that, especially if it's exploiting minors.
Yeah, I'm not really a fan of the whole exploiting minors thing. So
yeah, so there's money for the taking involved unless everybody asks. So there's 1.4 million users that TikTok identified as qualifying for this lawsuit. but the attorneys are asking for a collective payment not to exceed 33% of the settlement fund. So if they're talking about 33% out of, $92 million, they're going to get a pretty hefty chunk of change. They're getting close to $30 million by itself. So that only leaves like 60 something million, if my math is correct, for everybody else to collect from. So if there's that many people with that little bit of money left, there's some expectations that it could be as low as like $1 if everybody wanted some.
Well, I'm doing the math right now, and if it's as straightforward as 60 million divided by the 1.4 million users, then they would each get roughly $42.85.
Yeah.
But the math is probably not that straightforward. So,
Well, there's a weird edge case where, like, somehow a subclass in Illinois can claim like 5 shares of this, so they can have like 5 times the amount that other people could get. So it's really weird how this would, like, it just depends on who and what ask for what and where they come from.
Okay.
It's weird. I don't understand how they got that.
Oh, I see. Okay. So there's 1.4 million users in that Illinois subclass, and there's another 87.6 million people, other class members nationwide. So it's like 90. No, it's pretty much straight on 89 million people.
Oh, that 1.4 million
in
is
this
the
class
Illinois
action.
subclass. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Mhm.
So if it's $61 million divided by 89 million people, that's less than
Yeah.
$1. Holy crap.
Here, let's do that math real quick.
Holy
We're
crap.
doing 60 million divided by
89.
89 million. Only roughly 67 cents. Right on. Right on.
So, holy cow, that's that's like, why bother?
That's how these class action suits go, though. They get sued, they pay out this piddly amount of money for the millions of people that are actually involved in the suit, and then nobody gets anything.
Nobody gets anything. I mean,
because everybody claims it, and then they're like, "Oh, well, too many people claimed it. I'm not going to pay it now." That's what happened with the Equifax thing. Remember? They were like, "Oh, too many people claimed it. No, you can either get this. You can only get the money if you were protected by
credit
if you
monitoring
had
thing.
yes, if you had credit monitoring service the previous year, which obviously nobody did, because why would you need it until you got breached?"
And it's not even like I trusted a company to hold my personal data and they got hacked. This is involuntary. If you have an account that reports to these bureaus, which almost everything does, then they get your information. And it was the bureau that got hacked. So what are you supposed to do about that? It's not like Disney got hacked and I gave my information to Disney, or it's the credit bureau. I mean, they get this stuff automatically.
Exactly.
And I have no say in the matter. I can't opt out of it and say, no, you cannot report this on my credit report. I don't want a credit score. You can't opt out of it. They report it regardless. So it's like baloney. So, exactly. Class actions are fun.
So, we talked about this probably a couple episodes ago about how, or a few episodes ago, all of the Disney Plus shows that got announced during Disney's investor meeting. Loki and Star Wars: The Bad Batch finally have premiere dates for Disney Plus. So, There we go. Loki will premiere on June 11th, and Star Wars: The Bad Batch will hit Disney Plus on May the 4th. You know,
Oh,
that
well,
Star Wars
how
holiday.
appropriate.
Yeah. This article also tells us the new Spider-Man title, Spider-Man No Way Home, which we do have a trailer for.
Sweet.
So we're gonna watch that
I
later.
haven't seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. So yeah, pretty interesting. I'm excited for the Loki thing. I still haven't watched as much of the Clone Wars as I would like to. So
Is the Bad
I'm gonna have
Batch
to get on
supposed
that
to be
eventually.
something related to the Clone Wars?
Maybe it seems like it looks like the art style is fairly similar. So more than likely it'll have something to do with it. It's probably not like you had to have watched the entire series in order for it to make sense or anything. But yeah, we'll
I
see.
haven't heard anything about it, so I haven't the slightest clue. Just like I really don't have any idea of what Loki is supposed to be about just yet. But then again, I didn't know anything about WandaVision until like 2 weeks before it dropped, because they finally got us some, half decent looking trailers of an idea of what we thought we were going to get, and just the sitcom
It's still
spaces.
the WandaVision has way outclassed the trailers that they
Oh
put out. Like
yes,
it has gone so far beyond that. It is not even
100%.
funny.
And I loved it even before it had the critical episodes, like 3, 4, well, not so much 3, but definitely 4. And
Yeah.
then
And then the three that we're going to talk about this week are
exactly. It's like,
Woo!
so I'm really glad that I like that from the get-go, and I don't feel like, because sometimes I think it's me jumping on a bandwagon. I mean, you kind of had to shove me on this Marvel wagon in the beginning, and I've just
A
been
little
like
bit.
totally transcended into all of it since then, and I love it, and it's good. But I feel like I had to get pushed there. Whereas this is definitely something that I was excited to see before anything else. And, I didn't need you to get me involved in it at all.
Let's be real. It didn't really take all that long for you to get into the Marvel stuff. Once you started to understand it,
Yeah.
especially towards Infinity War and Endgame,
Yes, that helped.
You were ready for it. Yeah.
I was ready for Infinity War when we went to see it. It was okay. Yes, I'm ready. Let's go see this. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for the ending of the movie. That's for sure. That kind of left a giant hole in our hearts for a good year.
I was so mad. I was so mad. I was like, really? They're gonna do that to me? It was well worth the wait, definitely. But I was still very mad.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So Loki seems pretty interesting. I'm interested to see what they do with that, because I'm assuming that it's splitting off from the timeline that we get in Endgame, where he steals the cosmic cube and gets away somehow.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if if he returns as the lovable but still somewhat good-hearted scoundrel that we all had come to know and love by Endgame, or if it's just going to be starting over from square one. Kind of hoping it's a mix of the two, but
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can full on embrace just evil, mischievous Loki after seeing the Loki that we see, especially the first 5 minutes of Endgame, where he generally has a heart now. I don't know. We'll see. We'll just see what happens.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to some depressing news.
I think we briefly mentioned it last No, we didn't, did we?
Didn't happen last episode. Or this wasn't happening last episode.
Was it not? Did we
I
record
don't
that
think
just
so.
before everything that happened? I think it was. Holy cow! Gosh,
Yeah.
time
Hmm.
gets away. So, for those of you who have been under a rock, um, it may have finally thawed out now, depending on where you're at. I know there's still literally like
What?
ice and snow mounds in certain parking
Let me
lots.
finish your sentence a little bit more elegantly for you. Ready? For those of you who have been under a rock, Texas has been under ice.
Sure, there you go. That's better. That's better. Um,
Anyway,
we had a massive winter storm go through, and it caught everybody a little bit differently. From Texas all the way up to like New England, where they're kind of used to this. It went through Tennessee. I mean, it's something that we've dealt with before. It's definitely the worst it's been in years, but we were okay. Texas, on the other hand, just completely lost it. I think it was a good 40 to 50% of the state at one point was going through rolling blackouts and stuff because their entire system just failed. And it's kind of on the energy reliability console of Texas, or the energy unreliability console, as some people are now demanding it be named. They've kind of done this to themselves in the way that Texas runs its system. They don't have a major connection to the western or the eastern interconnect of the states as a whole, the U.S. states power grid. So they couldn't really get anything from anybody else, and everything just shut down. They lost wind, they lost solar. Some of their gas producing generators had frozen controls because it was just too dang cold. And there's people now who are unfortunately finding out that there's companies in Texas that you can buy power from that have like variable rates based on what the wholesale rate is going, which is very different from what we have here. Like, we don't have a choice. It comes from the TVA, which then is sent to the local power companies, and you only have one local power company wherever you're at. So we don't have a choice who we get our power from. It's Columbia Power and Water, and that's it. That's all we get. Apparently, there's people in Texas that can get from a multitude of providers their power. Well, one of these providers is Griddy, which basically sells at a wholesale value their electricity that they're distributing to their users and whatnot. Well, there's couples, and there's one couple, but there's tons of people who are now getting like as high as $17,000 electricity bills because the rates skyrocketed during the entire energy crisis. And this one company, Griddy, is basically saying there's nothing we can do. It's your fault. You kind of should have read the fine print. And they are totally passing the buck to the customers and expect them to just pay this because it wasn't our fault, but this is what happened and this is how it's going to be, and you now owe us god awful amounts. So that's like, this example is $9,500 for 19 days of power is what this customer got charged. Is ridiculous that you could do this to anybody. I get the fact that nobody had power, but you can't honestly think that you're going to be able to pass this off to people and say, yeah, this is what it cost us, so this is what's going to cost you.
yeah, that's ridiculous.
I don't understand.
Eat the cost. Come on now, for real. That's nobody is going to pay you $9,000, let alone $17,000 for their power bill for how long was that? 19 days? That's ridiculous. That's like 6 months worth of rent for some people. I don't know what the housing market is like down there, but I mean, we're paying $1,200 a month for the apartment that I'm living in right now. That's probably closer to 7 to 8 months of rent, but even still, ridiculous.
It just depends on where you're at in Texas. They used to have really, really, really low prices, comparatively speaking, but they've got a lot of people moving in from like New York and California, to where their real estate market's like doubled cost in like the last 5 years. So it's getting expensive there too. But I mean, come on, ridiculous. So they're talking about possibly having lawsuits against this and whatnot. The worst part of this is the lieutenant governor said the same thing that basically these power companies said, which was read the fine print. Senator Ted Cruz said no power company should get a windfall because of a natural disaster, and Texans shouldn't get hammered by ridiculous rate increases for last week's energy debacle, which is a totally fair and honest answer, because they shouldn't be stuck with what happened. That wasn't anybody's fault. And then,
Except Texas's fault.
well, I mean, as a whole, the council responsible for that, yeah, okay, that was kind of their fault,
Yeah.
but still. And then the Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick told Fox News that people are getting those bills, those big bills, are people who gambled on very low rate energy cost, and it would go with the power. It would go up with the power cost. So they're saying they gambled because they try to get a low rate when things were low, but then this is what happens when it's not.
That's stupid.
Like, no, double maybe,
no.
but you can't go up like $150, $200 a day for electricity costs. That's ridiculous.
Let's do the math here, right? So they normally pay. We'll go with the higher number. They normally pay $250 a month. So we'll do times divided by 100. If I'm doing my math right, then from $250, that's not right. It's ridiculous. It's insane how much more they decided to charge. It's like 38 times. 38 times their normal rate.
Yeah.
Their normal monthly bill. For not even a month, for 19 days.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't even understand. So I'm glad that we don't have to deal with that. It makes me mad that I'm stuck with one power company and you can't price shop anything, but I'm grateful that I don't have to worry about this happening, to where they can automatically say, oh, well, it cost us double the amount to make the power this week, so we're going to charge you like 6 times the amount, or some BS math like that.
Yeah. No.
Especially after, half the people didn't have power anyways. Like, well, it may have cost you a little bit more, but how much did you not make? Because there's clearly a lot of people that wasn't using power because you cut everything off. So realistically, how much more did you have to make?
It's almost like Texas screwed themselves by not incorporating themselves into a federal energy grid and just closing themselves off because they're always threatening to secede. But what do I know?
It works when it works until it doesn't work, and then look what happens. You screwed the pooch.
Exactly. All right. So now, time for one of our favorite topics.
Oh, yay.
Dark mode. Google Maps has finally said that they are introducing a dark mode into Google Maps for Android.
Big air quotes, because I can't find it still.
This article came out 3 days ago, and David looked, I think, probably when I sent him our document yesterday. And I looked right before we started recording, and neither of us could find it. It's still blindingly light, which is sad.
Yes.
I don't understand it. I would love Google Maps dark mode. And sometimes, I mean, it's nice that it does, like, the map itself transitions over to a sort of dark mode when you're driving at night. But I'd just like it to be dark all the time. That would be helpful.
Yeah.
I like dark mode.
And even apps that I wanted it, but questioned how it would look. Facebook being the biggest one. You sent me that like a week ago. And I was like, oh my God, finally. And I started looking at it and I was like, you know, this is probably one of those cases where the user doesn't know what they're asking for. And within 10 minutes of having it, I was like, nope, I knew exactly what I asked for, and I am so used to it now, I will not go back to light mode. Like, it looked a little weird at first, I have to admit.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I can't deal with light mode and anything that supports a dark theme anymore. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of on the eyes. It's definitely kind of on the freaking battery life. And I want a more uniform experience. And we got dark theme finally with Android 10. But they had so many apps that still only had a light theme. And I'm like, why? This is not uniform at all. Why can't you get this figured out? And yet, I still don't have it.
Hopefully we'll have it soon.
Hopefully.
But
I'm excited.
They've announced it. They've built it. It's out there somewhere. It's probably just a scheduled, like, what do you call it? Not a scheduled rollout. Just like a, God, you know what I'm trying to say.
I know what you're trying to say, and I'm trying to think of the word myself, and I can't do it either. I don't know the
term. What?
Stagnated rollout? Segmented
Staggered.
rollout? Staggered. There we go.
Staggered rollout.
Good God.
There we go. We got there eventually, guys. It only took us like a full 2 minutes, but we got it.
Stagnated? No, that would be still water. Like, what am I trying to say?
It's probably just in a staggered rollout. We'll get it eventually, but I want it now.
Yes, please.
That's all I'm saying.
Please.
Let's move on to our last article for this episode, shall we?
So this one kind of got brought in just because of the discussion that we're going to have after it, but Nvidia finally launched the RTX 3060. It's supposed to be around, $329, which is a little bit higher than the 1060 that everybody loved, but it's about right in line with the 2060 that not everybody loved, and is, I don't know, maybe $50 cheaper than the 2060 Super. That definitely catches up with this in a lot of ways. It's not the improvement that it needed to be, that's for sure. It barely beats the 2060 Super. And the 3060 Ti, which has already been launched, is definitely the way to go. So why bring this out? Well, it finally dealt with something that a lot of people have kind of been miffed about the entire 30 series launch. We got more RAM, finally, more VRAM. We've been on 8GB cards forever. I mean, you had an 8GB card with the 10 series, and I got an 8GB card with the 20 series when they came out, the 60 Super, 8 gig variant. But then they launched, the freaking 3080 and the 3070 with 8 gigs of RAM. So it's like, okay, when are we going to get a RAM up increase and whatnot? Well, they gave it to us, but it's literally on a smaller bus, on a lower end card that isn't going to utilize it anyways. So what the heck was the point?
It's like the same situation that the 1066 gig was in. It definitely would have been hampered with 3, but it wasn't necessarily going to use all 6 either. So it was like a nice to have thing. I don't think that this card needs 12 gigs of RAM or a VRAM. It's ridiculous.
I don't think so either.
Leave it at the 8 and put everything else up to 12. Why wouldn't you have done that?
I don't know.
Put the put the 3080 at maybe like 16, and then 3070 at 12,
I don't know.
and then 3060 Ti at
You would
12 with
think.
a smaller bus or whatever, and then put the 3060 at 8.
Would have been smart. And I guarantee you it doesn't need it, because I have a mildly slower card than this is supposed to be. And by mildly, I mean like hardly any difference at all in a lot of instances. And I don't even come close to using 8 gigs of RAM. And I think it might be 5x. I don't even think it's 6. I could be wrong. I might have GDDR6 on mine, but I don't think so. I think it's 5x. So it's slower RAM too. And it doesn't even come close to what this thing has got. And it's not going to need it, because you're not going to be able to run anything that needs that kind of memory anyways. So why the hell do it? But they did it anyways. And then they go around and they do this. They come out with the big spiel. Nvidia cares about gamers. And they specifically make a specialized modified driver for the 3060 card that the minute it detects any kind of cryptocurrency mining or anything like that, it cuts the
asterisk.
Yes. and not hackable too. Not hackable, unhackable, hack proof basically is the words they use. They didn't say hack proof, but I think the exact words was it could not be hacked. Modified driver. There's your big clue. It's a driver. So if it's software implemented, there's going to be a way around it. I guarantee it. That it cuts the hash rate in half. So they say it's for gamers. Why didn't you do that for all the cards? Why did you do that for the 3060? Why not include it with the 70 and the 80 and the 80 Ti and the 90? Baloney. Don't even start. So then, we get a brand new card in the low end that's supposed to be, $329. And you can't find it because Nvidia's website automatically forwards you to Newegg, which then had a raffle, basically, that said, enter for your chance to have the opportunity to buy a card. So it doesn't matter if you were in it 2 weeks ago or if you were in it today. You got thrown in a giant randomized order, and you then won the opportunity to buy a said card starting at $329. Well, they only had like 2 or 3 cards that were at the $329 price point, and everything else was up to like $500, $600, $700.
Jeez.
Which is ridiculous. But then you go, and this is where we lead into the discussion topic of it. Then you go and you decide that you want to include a brand new line of SKUs specifically for miners that they are calling CMPs, or cryptocurrency mining processors, or something along the lines of that wording. And basically, they end up being ridiculously underpowered processors for mining that aren't even as good as the 3080s for mining, which is what the miners are going after, is the higher end cards anyways. So you claim to bring something out for the miners that isn't going to affect GeForce GPUs for gamers, but it doesn't do as good as what is out there for the gamers, which means the miners are going to go for that anyways, creating a bunch of cards that don't have display outputs at all, so that gamers can't use them. And where are you getting this magical silicon that doesn't exist, that isn't going to affect GeForce gamers? Like, did you start a magical, 50% capacity fab that isn't running on what GeForce is running on? No.
You forget, David. Nvidia has access to the GPU fairies. This is so dumb. And the thing is, this would be a good idea. One, if they actually had the supply of everything else, and two, if they didn't limit it to one type of cryptocurrency. It literally, even in their own blog post, it says that they are only addressing Ethereum mining, which, yes, is a big problem.
Yes.
But if you're mining something different, you can still make a profit. And people have shown that. So just don't mine Ethereum. And you can buy a 3060 and still make a profit every day.
Yeah, even at the rates that they supposedly limit this thing to, it's still at the inflated pricing that Ethereum is at, makes a profit. And you know there's going to be a way around these artificial software limitations. It's a driver.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You didn't do anything physically to the card.
We're going to be hearing about a cracked driver probably somewhere in the vicinity of like a month.
I
can almost guarantee it. By the end of next month, we're going to hear something about it.
And it's not even like you did it for the entire line, where it could be, a while before somebody finds where the driver is modified and just reverse engineer it. You literally left the 70, the 80, and the 90 alone. And everybody knows that their unified driver is in a unified package. It literally has one download from the blessed website, and the drivers just automatically detect what's in your computer and then conforms to the... All you got to do is have two different things going, and you'll find the differences for anybody that knows how to open up anything that can read code. I don't know how to do it, but I guarantee you the freaking crypto miners know how to do it. They're not stupid people. They know what they're doing. So why even try? Their philosophy is, we are gamers through and through. We obsess about new gaming technologies, new architectures, new games, and tech. We design GeForce GPUs for gamers, and gamers are clamoring for more. Yet Nvidia GPUs are programmable, and users are consistently discovering new applications for them, from weather simulation and gene sequencing to deep learning and robotics. Mining cryptocurrency is one of them. With the launch of the 3060 on the 25th, we're taking an important step to ensure GeForce GPUs end up in the hands of gamer. They talked about having the hash rate. Detects the specific attributes of Ethereum cryptocurrency mining algorithm to limit the hash rate to around 50%. That only makes sense as our GeForce RTX GPUs introduce cutting-edge technologies such as RTX real-time ray tracing, DLSS accelerated AI imaging upscaling, and reflex superfast response rendering for the best system latency. To address the specific needs on Ethereum mining, we're announcing Nvidia CMP, or cryptocurrency mining processor, product line for professional minings. CMP products, which don't do graphics, are sold through authorized partners and optimized for the best mining performance and efficiency. But yet people have already found out the 3080 is better, which means they're just going to keep going for the freaking 3080 and 3090. They don't meet the specifications required of a GeForce GPU, and thus don't impact the availability of GeForce GPUs to gamers. So, are you saying that for 100% every case scenario, a CMP card was a defective GeForce card and there was no way you could save it? Is that what you're saying? 100% of those cards were a defective GeForce GPU and you couldn't save it. It was a 3090 Ti die that didn't work and there was no way you could cut it down to a 3070 or a 3060. And you're saying 100% of the time we will never make dedicated silicon out of the precious wafers that we can't get from Samsung because they're behind on everything, just like TSMC is, that not one of those wafers is going to be directly dedicated to these CMP cards, I don't buy that for 1 second. Do you?
Nope, not at all.
Baloney. You're creating a new product, which means you have to get it from something, which means that could have been something else. You didn't create it out of thin air. Well, I guess you did. Ben says you got access to the magical fairies, so there must be something that they have. Don't give me this. Don't even start. Just create the line. Just create the line for the dang people who want it, and don't try to spin it for the gamers, because they ain't buying it. And then you create these cards, and where are they going to go after the miners are done with them? You can't sell them for gamers. They don't have outputs. And you specifically said they don't do graphics. So what's that mean? They're going to end up in a landfill somewhere?
Probably.
You're creating more waste? For what? To spin it positively and say, oh, we care about the gamers? No, you don't. Exactly. You care about the money. And I'm not mad that you care about the money, but don't lie about it. Just own it. You're a corporation. You have to make money. I get it. Don't lie about it. Ridiculous.
Why focus on creating this entirely new SKU when you could just not do that and instead focus your efforts on trying to increase your supply chain and directly address that supply problem? Yeah. But no, we're gonna create this new SKU out of thin air, and now this is what you have to use to mine. Except you can still use everything else to mine.
Still use everything else because we didn't touch anything on anything else. If that's what you wanted to do, I'm sure there'd be lockouts that you could do for the entire line. You did it for one. Why not do the entire line? Why not do 75% cut?
Why not do a 90%?
Because that would harm the consumer. No, that would harm your bottom line is what it would harm.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm done with this.
All right. Yeah, I'm done. Let's move on to something that we're excited about now.
Yes, please.
WandaVision!
Yay!
So we're finally talking about episodes 6, 7, and 8. Probably the biggest ones. Well, definitely the biggest ones we've had up until this point. So let's start out with episode 6. All new, a Halloween spooktacular. I'm going to have to move you out of the way so I can read this. In a late 1990s, early 2000s setting, Wanda wants to spend Tommy and Billy's first Halloween together as a family, but Vision tells her that he is going to patrol the streets with the neighborhood watch. Pietro, quote unquote, offers to step in as a father figure and takes the boys trick-or-treating, causing mischief with his super speed, which Tommy is revealed to have inherited. Meanwhile, Vision explores further away from their house and finds residents of Westview standing frozen in their position, including Agnes. Vision speaks to Agnes's real self, and she tells him that he is dead. Outside Westview, Hayward orders Monica, Darcy, and Jimmy to leave the base for disagreeing with his decision to attack Wanda, but they sneak inside. They hack into his computer and discover that he has been tracking Vision's vibranium signature. Vision tries to push through the static wall, but he begins to disintegrate. Billy senses this and tells Wanda, who expands the hexagonal static wall. Vision, Darcy, and several SWORD agents are enveloped by this new boundary. So I think the biggest takeaway from this episode is how powerful Wanda is. It really shows the breadth of her power, because I mean we kind of get into it in episode 8, and we'll talk about that when we get there. but she is able to control things, not just in her immediate vicinity, but things on the very edge of town. And maybe they're not like up to the same quality per se as the stuff like right next to her. But I mean, realistically, it's kind of like, put it this way, it's kind of like a video game, I guess. If you're not looking at something, you don't really need to render it to tell the player that it's there. You only need to show the player something if they're looking at it. And it's kind of like the same way here. She's in the center of town for most of this episode, and Vision goes on the very outskirts. People are still there. They're still kind of doing things, but they don't really have like personalities or anything. They're mostly stuck in loops. So the illusion lives on. It's just not necessarily like 100% all throughout Westview.
Yeah, it's eye-opening for a couple of different reasons. You pointed out the extent of her powers, the anger driven, and also trying to save Vision's life driven decision to expand at a pretty alarming rate to that static
Mm-hmm.
wall. And the minute it caught to any of the sword agents, it's her reality filter kicks in and turns the entire camp into like circus clowns and things like that. And it kind of also showed some of the limitations. I mean, she's conserving it where she needs to, and like you said, not necessarily animating everything on the outskirts of town, because why bother? But it also opened up a lot of the uh, the idea that something's up with Hayward, and he's clearly got a mission, but it kind of clinched in my brain that it's not the mission that it should be, which would be to try to save the townspeople and, communicate in a meaningful way with Wanda and try to resolve the issue. His concern is purely Vision and Vision alone. And
Mm-hmm.
we get that.
And we really see that in episode 8 too.
Yes,
So
exactly. One of the
we'll
things,
walk through that once we get
yeah,
there.
one of the things that they showed, we see Darcy and them hacking into Hayward's firewall. They labeled Vision Project Cataract, so there was a reason for him tracking it and whatnot, and we get to why that is later on. But his intentions became very clear that it was just Vision and Vision alone, which kind of
Mm-hmm.
almost eliminated him as, some of the feelings that I had in the beginning was something about Sword calls back to like Hydra in a way. There's something insidious going on beneath the surface, and maybe somehow he's involved with what's going on and things like that, or he's got something. He's like a master puppeteer or something like that. And we've had um, different things point to different people in previous episodes. I mean, there for a little bit, people were speculating something to do with Darcy, especially in the way that Agnes portrayed her as, this obnoxious Karen, for lack of a better word, in the first few episodes, especially with the PTO for the children nonsense in the beginning and whatnot. But then it's like, what about Agnes herself? And then Vision does what he does with her, like he's been able to do with other characters, and break that control that Wanda has over these people. And it seemed innocent enough. And like, okay, it called into question. I've been calling into question her the entire time, but then that moment right there is like, oh, okay, innocent enough. She's not involved with anything. So it's like, who's at fault here? Is it Wanda? Because that's what we're told earlier. But now Hayward's doing stuff that he's not supposed to be doing. And the fact that he wanted to get rid of Monica and everybody else is kind of troublesome to think. And then Vision himself is also calling into question. He lied to Wanda about where he was going for the Halloween shenanigans that were happening. He's supposed to be on neighborhood watch, and he's not. He's going around trying to figure out what is happening, what extent she's controlling and whatnot. So it's weird. It's very weird.
We're gonna get into it anyway. So I think a major thing to point out is that even though Agnes is on the outskirts, she doesn't act like everybody else that's being controlled on the outskirts, because she is able, even after Vision puts her back in the trance, very large quotation marks there, she's able to turn around and go back into the center of town.
Exactly. So it's frustrating. Very frustrating.
It's innocent enough on first glance, but upon watching everything else, you can see the seeds that are planted. And I almost even want to go back and see if there's anything else that we can catch.
And I started doing that today with the intent of hopefully finishing before we got to this, but I was just too tired to watch anything. I kept falling asleep. So I think that's something that we definitely need to do before the next recording. We'll have more time too, because we only have one more episode, right? Episode 9 is it, correct?
Okay, that's it.
So I think that's something that we can accomplish.
Yeah, we should be able to.
All right. Is there anything else?
The first few episodes are pretty short anyway. Yeah, no, that was pretty much it.
All right.
I think we can move on to episode 7. All right, so episode 7, Breaking the Fourth Wall. In a mid to late 2000s setting, Wanda decides to have a day to herself, and Agnes agrees to babysit Tommy and Billy. Wanda sees various parts of her house constantly changing and is unable to control them. Vision wakes up to find the sword agents inside the boundary are now members of a circus. He releases Darcy from the spell, and she tells Vision about his death and the events that led to the current situation. Outside of Westview, Monica and Jimmy meet with loyal sword personnel and obtain a vehicle that should be able to cross the barrier. When this is unsuccessful, Monica decides to enter herself. She passes through the static wall and emerges with seemingly heightened vision. When Monica confronts Wanda, Agnes tells Monica to leave and takes Wanda to her house. Wanda looks for the boys in the basement and discovers a strange lair. Agnes introduces herself as a witch named Agatha Harkness and reveals that she's been interfering with Wanda, including by sending the Pietro imposter and killing Sparky. Dun dun dun.
Oh.
So this is finally where we start to see the other player in this story, if you will. Agnes isn't really she's not the mastermind behind everything, because she clearly does not have control over Wanda, as we can see in the next episode. But she's definitely going to be a key player in the final episode somehow, because, I mean, why wouldn't she be? She's revealed herself. She's clearly very powerful. Not necessarily as powerful as Wanda. No, and there's a reason for that, which we'll get into in the next episode.
We'll get into it.
But, yeah, I'm interested to see exactly what they do with her in the final episode, because, like I said, I don't think she's the mastermind behind everything.
They made it clearly
she has control over Wanda.
They made it, and we'll explain when we get to episode 8. They made it very clear that she's not, and it almost took me aback for almost the entire episode until we got to the final line, which I totally didn't realize that they never once provided her this line within the MCU, or this title in the MCU once. And yet Somehow we all know it. Somebody's had to have mentioned it to me before. Probably you. I know her as this title, but it took me a while to realize they've never noticed. They've never said it before. But anyways, episode 7. By far my favorite part of the entire episode, and you can probably already tell by my giddiness for it, would definitely be the reveal and the theme song that accompanies it, Agatha All
yes.
Along. I love it. Absolutely love it.
It's so good. It's so good.
My favorite part. So, but that brought into question, okay, what has she done? We see her manipulating in the very beginning the play, for like the talent show, as it was in the beginning. We see some manipulation with a couple of other people later on. The big thing, probably, and I forget his name, but the neighbor that started cutting down that wall, and one of the like first things that set off alarm bells within Vision's head. We see that she's because in the beginning, I all thought that was glitches with the control, whoever was controlling it, and later on it's revealed that Wanda's controlling it, and we get some other parts in this episode where like the house starts changing and things start happening that Wanda clearly has no control over. She's wondering the same thing too. Like she just can't. There's a glitch and we don't know what it is. So I always attributed those things to Wanda. Never once did I think that it was an exterior force acting upon it. And Sparky dying, I thought it was something to do with a plant. I thought he got into something like a flower that is poisonous to animals or something like that. Like, I thought that's what it was, and maybe I'm just imagining that. But I thought that was said in the episode, which is why I want to go back to it at some point and see.
Yeah, I can't remember what they said.
But then it's all revealed to be Agatha, and it's like, oh, we finally get into this. And one of the things that I loved about this, and I wish I'd noticed it sooner, and why I want to go back, another reason, it's calling back to the very first thing that I complained about with this show, the changing aspect ratios and whatnot. And I bitched and complained for no reason at all that the first 2 episodes and I didn't even care that it was black and white. I understood we were going for black and white because it was supposed to be like imitating like the Dick Van Dyke Show and things like that, and it didn't bother me at all. I could handle that. It was the changing aspect ratio. I finally clued in that was an actual clue to what was going on in the show, and the fact that they changed it based on what reality that we're viewing. And the minute that she goes through Agnes's dark basement walls there, it changed back down to I don't know, some letterbox ratio that is not a perfect 16:9, but it's close. I don't know what it would be. And it's like, oh my God, I wish I'd noticed it sooner. That is such a big reveal. Like, I love it.
Did you seriously not understand that was supposed to be imitating like a 50s TV show?
I did at the beginning.
That was the whole reason. That was the whole reason for the aspect ratio.
I got that, but it pissed me off at the beginning. But now I get it. It's when they changed it, it's like a difference in reality. Her reality of WandaVision versus actual reality. Like the minute that she goes through, I didn't get that at first. Now that I get it, I love it. It's like, oh my God, these people are so freaking creative. And I bitched about it at the beginning.
Oh my God.
I got over it, but still, I complained. And now I just see it as pure genius. I'm like, oh my God, these people are masterful. They clearly think about things better than I do, because I just thought it was stupid. I don't know. What do you think?
I like this episode a lot, but I really want to move on to to 8 so we can talk about
everything,
all of the connections. Yes. Okay. Episode 8, titled Previously On. In Salem in 1693, a coven of witches led by her mother Evanora attempt to kill Agatha for practicing dark magic, but she drains their life forces. Who'd have thunk it?
Well, at first I thought it was, just calling back to the Salem witch trials and that these were town folk.
Yeah, well, remember that's what I told you because that's what I read. She was supposed to be a witch that had
Well, yeah,
survived
you
the
told me
Salem
that, and
witch
then
trials
we
or
we
whatever.
we open on Salem 1963.
I was like, oh god, she's getting executed.
Exactly.
Which I mean, I guess was technically the what they were trying to do, but she turned it around on him.
Yeah, I love that. It's like, oh my god, yes, that's exactly what Ben was talking about. We open up on this. I am happy, and then I realized it was other witches. I was like, oh, well, this is not what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay. In the present, Agatha demands to know how Wanda is controlling Westview and forces Wanda to relive key moments of her life. Agatha learns that Wanda has had magical abilities since she was a child, which were later amplified by the Mind Stone, and that she has always enjoyed watching various sitcoms. After the blip, Wanda visited Sword to recover Vision's body, but Hayward refused to let her bury him. Unable to feel any life in Vision, she drove to a lot in Westview that he had bought for her before his death so they could live there together. In a fit of grief, she manifested a house on the lot and a new version of Vision and extended the hex across the entire town. Agatha concludes that Wanda possesses a legendary form of magic called chaos magic and dubs her the legendary Scarlet Witch. In a mid-credits scene, Hayward reactivates the original Vision from now all-white, reassembled corpse. So that's a big thing that we need to talk about in regards to Hayward's character.
Yeah.
We have been told up until this point that Wanda broke in and stole Vision's body, and that's why Vision is inside this hex.
Yep.
Because she's stolen his corpse and reanimated it. That is not at all the case. He has lied to everybody.
Yep.
They've had Vision the entire time.
Yep.
They've just been trying to reanimate him. The Vision that's inside with Wanda is nothing but her own creation, just like the house and pretty much everything else inside the hex is. So,
which was a big reveal.
Yes. I was like,
yeah.
Okay.
The fact that he lied about everything. And I had the feeling that something wasn't right. The minute he tried to throw out Monica and the rest of the gang, he was hiding something that he did not want revealed. And it was also the big moment that made it clear to me that he is up to something and he has motives for what he has done, but his motives and his plan are not in any way related to what Wanda has done with the Hex. And it just so happens to be that it is a solution to what he's trying to obtain and create. But it's not the reason he's there. And clearly why he doesn't care. Because everything he's done has just made things worse.
Yep.
And you'd think his focus would be the town, but it's obviously revealed that it's not. And this just
his
proves
focus
it.
has been on reanimating Vision this entire time, which wasn't necessarily masked very well, but I mean, we've been told that the original Vision is inside with Wanda this entire time, so we never really had a reason to suspect him necessarily. But now we know.
Now we know for sure.
And we know there's two versions of Vision out there, so what I think is really interesting is the expanding on Wanda's powers this episode. So it's revealed that she's had some form of magical ability since she was a kid, and the experimentation with Hydra, as far as like the scepter and the Mind Stone goes, was what expanded her powers to what they are now.
Basically, unlocked them in a way. We were told in the beginning through the MCU that she's upset, and so is Pietro, with Stark and everybody else, and this is why they joined Ultron, because of the incident that we are And I like that we get to see this incident unfold through her memories. That the bombs killed her parents, and somehow these two miraculously survived because this was defective. And this is what she's believed her entire life. And I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think she realizes what she done here either.
No.
Agatha calls it out, but at this point, she's just so stricken with grief. She can't process things in a logical sense. She's too hyped up on grief and emotion. So I don't think she realized it either at this point that she stopped the bomb. And everything else has just been amplified. And this also explains how, and I'm sure something will be said of Pietro at this point too, or eventually. Why they were the only two that actually survived these experiments that Strucker created anyways. I mean, these were the only two that survived them. So how, now we understand how. I was wondering, was it just, the Mind Stone choosing them somehow, like it knew?
Could be.
Or something
Could
like
be.
that. And now we see that, no, she's just always had these powers. And
I'm interested to find out, and who knows if we will. I'm interested to find out how Pietro gets his powers, because it doesn't have super speed before. So I'm wondering if maybe Wanda somehow influenced the experimentation with him and the Mind Stone, so that it didn't hurt him, but rather gave him powers, because she can clearly manifest things into real life. It's something that it's, especially after her interaction with the Mind Stone, is pretty easy for her. So it's not really a stretch to think that she could do that. Whether or not that's actually what happens remains to be seen. Who knows if we'll ever get that answer, because technically Pietro is dead. We've got like imposter Pietro right now. We don't know whether he's the one from the X-Men universe, and he's just been like brainwashed by Agatha or what. But I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I called into question a lot. I loved the Agatha all along reveal. But then we go into this, and she clearly has no influence as to what Wanda has done. Because she's asking the very question that we're all asking: how did you do this? What is this? Did somebody else do this? I thought there for a second they were going to reveal when Agatha put her under her spell at the very end of episode 7. I thought, well, maybe they're saying that she's been controlling her this entire time, and there's a reason for it, and it probably involves the twins, and she's made Wanda do all this. But it's hard to say. But then she goes, I don't know. She's learning it with us. So it's like, okay, so she's not the mastermind that we think she is. Because if she was, then she'd have all these answers already. She's trying to figure it out too. So it definitely hasn't answered everything, but it goes a long way. And we finally see that it was entirely through grief that Wanda's created all of this. One of the things that I don't know yet that I want to know is, where did Agnes come from? Was she the neighbor next door this entire time? Did she just get caught up in this and now she's interested? Or did she somehow have like a calling to this and went there somehow?
I assume that's probably something that we'll find out
next episode, yeah,
likely.
Hopefully.
So,
and then of course we get the Scarlet Witch title, which I don't know how I knew it. Must have been you or somebody I had a conversation with. I knew she was the Scarlet Witch all along, but never once have they had that title in the MCU up until this very moment. So, well, I don't know. I know it somehow, but I never really noticed that nobody called her that. So,
yeah.
I like it.
All right. Well, I think that's where we're gonna have to leave discussion until we get more answers with this next episode. So let's move on to our trailers portion. I'm very excited for this season finale though. So we're definitely gonna have to talk in depth about that on our next episode. Alrighty. So trailers. We've actually got a pretty good selection. Not any weird indie titles this time that nobody's gonna know. We've got a second trailer for Godzilla vs. Kong, which is going to be the first one that we watch. But before we get into it, I kind of want to do the same thing that we did last time with this one. We're going to watch the trailer, and then we're going to say who we think is going to win.
We're not going to say beforehand.
Well, I mean, I assume your answer hasn't changed from last time, right? After watching the
so
trailer?
my original, for those who haven't seen it or forgot, my original answer was 100% Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I was 100% Kong.
Proceeded to cuss Ben out because he lied to me, but then
I didn't lie to you.
Came to the conclusion that Ben, for all his shenanigans at times, doesn't lie to me, and then proceeded to cuss more because that just meant I was wrong. And I hated it. So
what he's trying to say is he watched the first trailer and he was proven wrong.
I was proven wrong 100%. So I guess if we have to go by the original trailer and the conclusions drawn from it, it's Kong.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested to see if that changes somehow.
Yeah. That's kind of why I wanted to watch this one, because it's gonna be different enough that I think it might change one or both of our answers. So we'll see.
Okay.
Anyways, second trailer for Godzilla vs. Kong.
We need Kong. The world needs him. She's the only one he'll communicate with.
It's Godzilla.
I don't think that there's enough in this one to sway me. I mean, we got a shot of Kong on the ground, but I mean, what good underdog story doesn't have a couple of shots of the hero, down and out before he gets the upper hand,
Yeah. If they had that shot included in the first trailer, it would have been enough to not sway my opinion, though. Because the first trailer, all they showed was Kong giving Godzilla the beatdown. Yeah, and there was no moment at all that there was any doubt in my mind that Kong wasn't just opening up a giant can of twisted tea on Godzilla's butt. But, I mean, we get a shot of him being just flat. We don't see how it happened.
Mm-hmm.
But he's just straight out knocked out on the ground for a moment. So if they had that in the original one, I think we could have kept it 50-50 split between us.
Yeah.
But it's not enough to change my mind back to saying Godzilla's going to win. So I don't think... I'm with you. It didn't do anything to change my persuasion. Had it been in the original one, I wouldn't have changed my answer, though.
That would have been a much more different discussion, but I'm glad that it went the way it went, because your reaction was hilarious.
That was funny. I was like, oh, I know he watched this, because you said it with such confidence too, and I'm like, he doesn't lie to me. He wouldn't lie to me for that.
Oh man,
that's funny.
All right, so our next trailer is for Cruella.
From the very beginning, I realized I saw the world differently than everyone else. That didn't sit well with some people. But I wasn't for everyone. I guess they were always scared that I'd be a psycho. But a new day brings new opportunities. And I was ready to make a statement. How does the saying go? I am woman, hear me roar. I'm just getting started, darling. The thing is, I was born brilliant, born bad, and a little bit mad. I'm Cruella.
That was not necessarily how I expected that trailer to go.
I'm sure you can probably tell by my reaction during the trailer. I have seen this a few times. I absolutely love this trailer.
Yeah.
Mostly because of the Who Is Sorry Now song that plays in it. It feels so right, and I don't know why. It just captivates me, and I just love it. It is not what I was expecting from the film. I thought, and I could just be completely misled by the trailer, I thought this was supposed to be a introductory movie of Cruella de Vil as a person before 101 Dalmatians, and something was supposed to have happened that sent her down this twisted and psychotic path that she inevitably takes within the 101 Dalmatians movie, being the original 60s animated classic film, or the early 2000s or late 90s, forget when it came out, movie, live action movie, and then the sequel to that with Glenn Close, which I absolutely love her as Cruella de Vil too. So I was also a little bit skeptical that somebody else could pull it off, but she's definitely done a good job of pulling it off. I think she makes a really good Cruella too. Can't think of freaking Emma Stone. Can't think of anything I would have done differently with just the makeup and the hair and everything else. I just love it. But I'm misled.
She definitely looks the part.
I'm misled because I thought she was supposed to have some kind of terrible thing happen in her life. And right now they've got it painted as she was just born this way. Which, I mean, I don't know. I like, still.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Okay. Let's rate it. I'm going to go probably wait for rental on this one. I don't know if I'm as hyped up about it as you are. I don't think I'd go see it in the theaters, but it interests me enough to watch it. I'm definitely going to watch it at some point.
I would 100% go see this in the theaters.
Let's move on to our next trailer for Mortal Kombat.
First learned about this 7 years ago. On a mission in Brazil to capture a wanted fugitive. When we got there, it tore through our unit in seconds. The target had superhuman abilities. It had the same marking you do, Cole.
It's a birthmark.
What do you mean?
He was born with it.
It's not a birthmark, Cole. It means you've been chosen.
Throughout history, different cultures all over the world reference a great tournament of champions. That dragon marking, I think it's an invitation to fight for something known. As Mortal Kombat.
Okay, so I don't know how much experience you have with the Mortal Kombat franchise. I'm not gonna say that I have a ton, but just seeing all of those references in there makes my little nerd heart flutter. It's wonderful. His history behind this is that there's been a few different adaptations of Mortal Kombat, and they've all kind of turned out mostly not good, kind of cheesy, not necessarily the best quality. So I'm excited to see this, more adult adaptation, I guess you could say. Adult adaptation with a bigger budget behind it. I'm interested to see where it goes. I would probably go see this in the theater. This looks really cool.
I would probably end up seeing this with you in the theaters. I don't know that I would. It's interesting, and I kind of want to see it, yes, but this isn't one of those movies that would captivate me personally, myself, to go see it in theaters. I need outside influence. The part that really got me, I mean, there's some scenes in there that was, a little gut wrenching. The one that really got me was when Sub-Zero froze the blood and used it as. So I was like, oh no,
that was
too much.
Good. I loved that.
Too much.
So yes.
But it did answer a question that I've always wondered about Avatar since we talked about it. You could freeze water. You could blood bend. It was forbidden, but you could do it. Could you freeze blood? I guess you can. Didn't like it.
Okay. All right. Our next trailer is for Invincible, which I'm pretty sure is an Amazon series. But we're going to watch it anyway.
Come on.
Knock it off, Todd.
I think Amber's been pretty clear about how she feels. I'm nothing like my dad. I want to be just like you.
I've fought to keep this planet safe. Your power's got to be due any day now, son.
Morning! I'm scared, Dad. What if I can't do this?
Follow me. Slow down. Land. I said land. Stop! Get up.
I'm actually getting used to this a little.
That's not good.
You need to be better. After everything he's done, how can I live up to all that?
You need to decide what kind of hero you want to be. That was you in the blue and the yellow.
Why don't you meet the team after school?
May we count on you in the future?
Yeah, I think so. And bored of this.
Son, we need to talk. What I'm about to tell you will change everything.
Mark Hamill.
You telling me you got Mark Hamill's voice out of that little laugh?
No, I saw it in in one of the long lists of names.
I was gonna say the list of names that went by so dang fast you couldn't read any of them.
I'm pretty sure I saw Clancy Brown in there too. Clancy Brown, aka Mr. Oops.
Very interesting. I want to see what this turns out to be.
The reason I'm so excited about this is because I have read the first volume of Invincible that they released back in middle school.
Of course you did.
And I haven't really chased it or anything, but I haven't read anything after that. And I remember there being some earth-shattering revelation right at the end of the first volume, and I've always wondered what's next.
Gotcha.
So I hope that this goes into it. I'm so excited. This looks so good.
Well, I'm glad you are. I want to see what it looks like. I want to see what it does. I'm interested in it. But
Have you watched any of The Boys yet?
Nope, still haven't done that. Need to.
I would recommend that too.
Alrighty.
It's kind of in the same vein, I guess. But as far as like the gore and stuff goes, but still. All right. So finally, our last trailer of the night, the one that we've mentioned that we're going to get to, Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Does the title surprise you at all?
Not really.
I didn't think so.
All right, so?
Gave us a fake name again.
Again.
Not shocked. Yeah. I just don't understand why he keeps doing this.
You don't understand?
Really?
I feel like it's pretty obvious to just spoil things.
I don't spoil things.
Your thing
Name me one thing that I've actually spoiled.
The last movie title thing.
Yes. Really? That's it? Ah.
Oh, it was a T. Oh, screw you, Marvel. Whatever. All right, fine.
Oh, love that.
That was funny.
Oh, great.
That was funny.
Okay, I kind of want to see. I want to know if any of this is real. I want to see these names that they've got. Let's see. Home Sweet Home.
Well, did you see their social posts? They
kept changing it, didn't they?
They were actually given fake things to post. So Tom Holland had one, Zendaya had one, and then Jacob Ballaton had another one.
No, I haven't seen
all
it.
different.
All different?
Yeah, it was, and it wasn't. They didn't know it either when they posted it because they were all confused.
Were they supposed to post it? That they were told to do this? Because I mean, they clearly spoiled. Not that it's a spoiler. The fact that Holland can't keep his mouth shut and he accidentally spoils and gives away literally everything. Bless his heart. So, I mean, it could have been like a test to see if he could keep his fat mouth shut again. I just love that did this. It's like they know not even to try and just keep him in a freaking loop as long as possible. No place like home. Home Alone. Yeah. Home Run. Homemade.
Want to go home.
Want to go
work
home.
From home.
Far From Home. They crossed it out and said, we already did this. And then somebody else goes, come on. Oh, good gosh.
Spider-Man Home Alone copyright issues.
Oh, God. Here we go. Webcamming. Keep it PG.
Keep it PG. Oh, man. That's too good.
That's funny. Homeschooled. Aunt May says no.
It's beautiful.
Zooming
That's
home?
Beautiful.
Please stop, they say.
Spider-Man stay at home.
Oh, God. I knew. Well, I mean, they did freaking Homecoming, and then they did Far From Home. So I was trying to think of any title out there possible that they could say just home something.
Mm-hmm.
So No Way Home seems about right. I was thinking that too. Like, I mean, we got the big reveal at the end that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And, oh, by the way, he's evil. So it's like, well, clearly there's going to be issues. So what would be a title that would work for that? No Way Home sounds appropriate.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We'll just have to wait and see.
Oh, I can't wait.
Where we're going in, or what's actually going to be happening.
Oh gosh, I cannot wait. This is something that we would definitely 100% see together.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, with that somewhat disappointing teaser trailer.
Why didn't we get to see anything?
Anyway, with that out of the way, that is where we're going to end this episode, guys. Thank you so much for listening or watching, whatever the case may be. Be sure to leave a like if you're on YouTube, leave a rating on whatever podcasting platform you happen to be listening on. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks for listening to this episode of Podcast Period. This episode was hosted and produced by Ben, co-hosted and edited by David. You can contact Ben on Twitter at BenPlaysVidges. That's Ben Plays VIDYAS. And you can contact David on Twitter at Car6by16. If you'd like to chat with us about any of the topics on the show, you can hit up the show at Podcast Period on Twitter or shoot us an email at podcastperiodpodcast@gmail.com. We also have a new website that has launched featuring new articles written by us, as well as links to all the episodes. Please visit that at podcastperiod.com. Want to do more for the show but aren't sure how? We have a Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you can get early access to episodes and so much more, and support the show while doing it. Just go to patreon.com/podcastperiod. That's all for this week. We'll see you next time.
This was a Nerdgasm podcast production.
Well, that was another in a long series of regrettable life choices.
Served at nerdgasmpodcast.com.